Hey YouTube, what's up? It's CS back here with another installment, and here's my review for Strikeforce, Melendez versus Masvidal. Alrighty folks, well what did you guys think of that Strikeforce event? In my opinion, it definitely wasn't one of their worst cards, but it definitely wasn't one of their best cards either in terms of excitement, but it was alright, it did have some moments, but everything that went down in that main card, had a very high likelihood of happening in my opinion, so, shit was expected. I really can't hate on it that much. You had KJ Noons outstriking Billy Evangelista in a striking war. That made sense. You also had Gegard decisioning Ovid StPreux in a sleeper. That makes sense. And what really makes sense is Yamanaka getting first round TKO'd by Christian Cyborg Santos. And yeah, I hope no one's surprised there. And of course, in the main event, you had Gilbert Melendez, winning a 5-round decision in that title defense over Jorge Masvidal. And that makes sense in the end as well. So let's take a look at that first, shall we? So folks, easy win for Gilbert Melendez. What do you guys think of that? Jorge Masvidal, traditionally a striker. He's been striking since he was a juvenile, essentially. He's competed in street fights, boxing matches, and of course he's made his name in MMA as a striker. He got outstruck by someone who's not traditionally a striker. We thought that Gilbert was going to mix it up against him, use his boxing skills and the power in his fists to, threaten Jorge on the feet a little bit, but threaten him enough to, make him wary of not getting hit and, of course, shooting in for a takedown really fast. We thought Gilbert was going to do something like that. Of course, ultimately, Jorge on his back would eventually have to defend from top control, ground pound, you know what I'm saying? And we thought that maybe he gets stopped, but at least a unanimous decision like that. Of course, he ends up getting decision, but, in his forte, stand-up, we thought that if Jorge was going to stand with Gilbert, he'd have at least a chance, We were thinking maybe at least he takes a round or two, maybe makes it look close, because on paper, Jorge is the better stand-up fighter, in terms of pedigree, right? But Gilbert, just ultra-talented dude, just came out there and outstruck a striker. He fights differently every time, and he's outstruck different kind of fighters before, like wrestlers, but he's also beat wrestlers in their own game and out-wrestled them. And taking a look back on him outstriking a striker, if he's going to out-wrestle a wrestler, then maybe he outstrikes a striker too, and that's what happened. So, solid win for Gilbert Melendez. Pretty gutsy, though, just because Jorge Masvidal is one of the more feared strikers in the lightweight division, I think. So, yeah, he looked good. Props to him. He was just beating up Jorge with that 1-2 all day. Throwing that straight punch down the middle, that would connect. Of course, coming forward with a cross, and Jorge just didn't like it, I assumed that he was feeling Gilbert's power because he was kind of gun-shy himself. Really wasn't throwing much besides a jab that he really couldn't gauge distance well with. And of course, he'd throw some futile flying knee attempts, which really weren't hurting Gilbert at all. So yeah, I don't know. He was just bloody ineffective in this fight. And it looked like he got, relegated to what? A sparring partner. That's what that looked like. Because Gilbert, for the most part, was landing over twice as many strikes, I think. So, damn, Gilbert did his thing out there as a striker. So, his, his stand-up's not to be fucked with, in my opinion. So, he did his thing. Props to Gilbert. What's next for him, though? I have no idea. I'd rather see him in the UFC. I don't like the idea of bringing fighters from the UFC to Strikeforce, and I doubt the UFC is going to do that. The really only person that comes to mind for a title defense is either, KJ Noons, and that fight hasn't gone down yet. I'm expecting it to. But maybe Shinya Aoki in a rematch. Who knows? But I don't know. I really don't know what they do. Because, Gilbert doesn't mind staying in Strikeforce. And there really isn't anyone there. And I doubt that UFC's can bring anyone over. So we'll see. As for Jorge Masvidal, who knows? Who knows? That just wasn't a good look at all, not even taking a round off someone who chose to strike with him, who's not traditionally a striker. So I really don't know what's next for Jorge Masvidal. But again, folks, solid win for Gilbert Melendez. Props to him. Alrighty, folks, now let's move on to that 145-pound women's championship between the champion and Christian Cyborg Santos and the challenger in Yamanaka. Folks, of course, Christian did her thing in a first-round TKO victory, but if anyone was going to have a chance with Cyborg, it was going to be Yamanaka, just because Yamanaka, consensus number 2 in the world, on paper she has the best shot, right? But no, she came in there and looked like another sparring partner or punching bag for Cyborg, and yeah, Cyborg made quick work of her. solid win for Cyborg Santos. You know, it definitely is a feather in her cap. She'll take whatever matches she can take just because no one wants a fighter in that division. Let's be honest. No one really is calling her out. You know, I'd like to see her go up against Ronda Rousey. I know she's probably the only person ranked that wouldn't be afraid of Cyborg because no one's asking for her. You know what I'm saying? And I really think that that match should be made if both parties want it. Why not? You know, Cyborg kind of said that she talks too much. I thought that was kind of funny. I'm like, all right, I want to see Cyborg knock her out just because, you know, what else do you want to see in the 145-pound division? You know, they really don't throw any fights up on 145 on any Strikeforce card besides a Cyborg fight, and she only fights like maybe once a year. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'd like to see whatever I can see out of that division with Cyborg, just because she is a great champion. So, props to Cyborg for doing her thing once again and proving why she's the queen of shoot to box. She just came in there, real aggressive. Threw a high volume of punches. Yamanaka couldn't handle him and eventually got fetal like this, and the ref, he stopped it kind of early. You might argue, but it would have got brutal if not. So, whatever, Cyborg did her thing. Yamanaka, what's next for her? Back to Japan, I guess, because she's not going to find any other fights in America, I think. And, of course, for Cyborg Santos, hopefully the Ronda Rousey bout, I'd like to see that. But she's also considered moving down to 135 and taking on that division. And if that's the case, rest in peace 135, because no one's beating that girl. So, props to Cyborg Santos for another, easy victory. Alright, everyone, now let's move on to that Gegard Mousasi, Ovince StPreux light heavyweight bout. Yeah, Gegard Mousasi pretty much outworking Ovince StPreux over the course of the first 2 rounds on the ground. So I gotta give him that, give him credit for it because he was sick. Of course, he gassed out in round 3, and he really isn't used to wrestling, and I really didn't expect him to out-wrestle Ovince StPreux, someone who is a handful, someone who's had a wrestling background, of course, in the past. But, yeah, I really expect Gegard to come out there and outstrike or sub Ovince StPreux once Ovince StPreux gasses. But of course, it was Gegard who gassed, and that's because he fought differently in, using wrestling, which he really isn't used to, and of course, he was sick before the fight. So, I'm not sure what he was sick with, but, whatever, he beasted through it and picked up a UD. Him giving up round 3, it was just like, wow. Usually, I'm like, Ovince StPreux looks pretty gassed round 3. I thought Gegard would for sure take it if it was gonna go down, that far into the fight, you know what I'm saying? But Gegard's the one who gasped, but again, it's because he fought differently in wrestling, which, takes more energy to do, especially when you're not used to doing it. And of course, again, he was sick. So what's next for Gegard? I don't know. We'll see. Probably, I don't know, Fei Zhao makes sense. I think that'd be a good fight. And as for Ovince StPreux, Hodge Gracie, I think that makes sense as well. So, yeah, I really don't know. I just wish Gegard fought to his potential, more often, just because I know he's an electric kickboxer. Technically he's pretty good. He packs a lot of heat. He trains with a lot of good guys, and, I know what he's capable of, and we've seen it in the past, but we haven't seen it lately, you know what I'm saying? And of course, he's a solid judo guy, and he has solid sampo and jiu-jitsu, pretty good subs from, the top and the bottom. The guy's just, a pretty, phenomenal fighter, and I just wish he fought like one. So that's unfortunate, but in the end, solid win for him. So, yep, good win for Gegard Mousasi. Alrighty, folks, now let's move on to the bout that opened up the main card between Billy Evangelista and KJ Noons. Solid stand-up battle, in my opinion. You had KJ Noons come out there and outstrike his opponent, and I thought that was what was going to happen if it was to be a stand-up match, just because Billy Evangelista, isn't as lengthy as KJ Noons. Noons knows how to strike from a distance, and that he did over the course of the last 2 rounds. Billy Evangelista could have fought smarter, and that would be to close the distance more often, beat KJ Noons up into clinch more, and that's where he was most effective, throwing elbows and knees once he clinched up with KJ, and of course take him down. He did that only once throughout the fight. He was going for these trip takedowns. KJ Noons has pretty good balance. He's not going to be taken down like that. I thought Billy should have just used his lower center of gravity and his strength, because I think he's the stronger of the two, to be able to just power through KJ Noons and take him down. That's what I thought he should have done. That's what I thought he was going to do, but he didn't do that. He stood with KJ and fought a kickboxing match and got outstruck. So no surprise there. KJ Noons is just technically better from a distance, and that's pretty much how the fight was fought, you know, for the most part. So solid win for KJ Noons. He just used his leg kicks to limit Billy Evangelista's movement for the most part, and then he used his fists to outbox him. So solid technical win for KJ Noons, 29-28. I thought it'd go down something like this if it were to stay standing, and it did, but I did pick Billy Evangelista to have a different game plan, and he didn't do it. So yeah, again, solid win for KJ Noons. What's next for him? Like I said, you know, I wouldn't be surprised for him to get a title shot. As for Billy Evangelista, who knows what they do with him? Really, Strikeforce has a hard time making cards, so I wouldn't mind seeing him in the UFC. I actually wouldn't mind seeing KJ Noons in the UFC. I think they're both decent fighters. So, yeah, who knows? We'll see. So there it is, folks. I hope you guys enjoyed my picks for Strikeforce Melendez versus Masvidal. Tell me what you thought of the event in the comment section below and my review as well. I do what I can, so hope you guys enjoyed that shit. And yeah, hope to see you for my 141 picks. They should be uploaded by a day's end, so hopefully I see you there. And yeah, that about does it for. Thank you all so much for all the support. Subscribe if you haven't yet. And yeah, I guess I'll see you soon. So do search for all my supporters, bruises for all my haters. Thank you again and take care.